So James has a book on his hand. It's a book by Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, Repeating the Words of the Buddha, where Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche comments on the basic teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. It's a really good book. Like all books of Tulku Urgyen are really good. Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, he passed away in 1996, about 25 years ago, and he was one of the most highly regarded tantric masters and Dzogchen masters of Tibet. Spent a long time in retreat, and Lama Lise, who taught our Sangha a couple of times, studied with him, and also Lama John Hogue, who I've now interviewed a couple of times for the Lion-Faced Guru podcast. He also studied with Tulku Urgyen. So this bit of text that James will read in a moment. It's from somebody who knows the tradition and knows the Tibetan Vajrayana scene, culture inside out. So James, please read it in a quite slow pace, really letting the message to sink in.
It's entitled A Message to People the World Over. Foremost, I would like to tell you that an enlightened essence is present in everyone. It is present in every state, both samsara and nirvana, and in all sentient beings. There is no exception. Experience your Buddha nature. Make it your constant practice, and you will reach enlightenment. In my lifetime, I have known many people who attain such an enlightened state, both male and female. Awakening to enlightenment is not an ancient fable. It is not mythology. It actually does happen. Bring the oral instructions into your own practice. Experience and enlightenment is indeed possible. I'll read that again. Bring the oral instructions into your own practical experience, and enlightenment is indeed possible. It is not just a fairy tale.
Was that it? It was that short?
Yeah. Well, I could go on, but that was what you read.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, that really included something really important for us to understand. It's not an ancient fable. Yesterday, at some point, I was mentioning, when I was guiding practice, I was mentioning being in the presence of Mahasiddhas. And personally, I have only met one Mahasiddha physically in this life, and that's Hagin Saint Amma. I highly recommend everyone to meet her. She tours around the world, and I'm sure she will continue when this virus situation passes. So highly recommend you meeting her, spending time in her presence. But then I also said yesterday that I think there are a couple of other, maybe a handful of other Mahasiddhas around. And well, I don't know everybody, of course. And the whole situation, what practitioners inside the borders of Tibet that has been forcefully made a part of China, that's like the whole Tibetan area is kind of a gray gray area because not much information about practitioners come out from Tibet. So there are probably, like there has been every 1 or 2 years, for several years now, there has been somebody from Tibet who has attained small rainbow body, where the person dies and the body shrinks, the physical body shrinks to about this size, like an adult size body shrinks to a size of a baby body. So like there must be Mahasiddhas in Tibet alive, but I think that outside Tibet, in the Vajrayana Buddhist scene, I know at least 2, and the first one is Garchen Rinpoche. I think Garchen Rinpoche got to the end of his emptiness meditation 1 or 2 years ago. That was when his presence, his vibration kind of took a completely new gear. And Garchen Rinpoche he's a really famous and loved teacher. I've also joined his teachings many times over the internet. A wonderful master who's 80 something years old, maybe like 84, 85. And the other one who I also haven't met, but I think is a Mahasiddha, is a Nepalese born Vajrayana master called Rana Rinpoche, R-A-N-A, Rana Rinpoche. And you know, his background is kind of unique because he was born Hindu, a Nepalese Hindu, and then he started with Advaita practice, and if I remember correctly, Hindu Tantra before he became a Buddhist, and then practiced Zen Buddhism for some time until he became interested in Tibetan Vajrayana. And of course, you know, him living in Nepal, it's like in the 70s and 80s when the first generation Tibetan masters were still alive. It was like a buffet table of different masters and teachings in Kathmandu specifically. So it wasn't at all difficult for him to make connections with masters then, and he became master himself. Like he has, as far as I know, he has spent in semi-retreat for, I don't know, 20 years, over 20 years. A semi-retreat means that, you know, he practices like half a day or something, and then the rest of the day does work. I don't actually remember what he did for living before he established his own Dharma mission, but I think that for at least 20 years or something he has been like a Dharma teacher and doing that as his occupation. So the reason why I'm talking about Amma and Garchen Rinpoche and Rana Rinpoche, and you know, there must be other Mahasiddhas as well, like some number of them. And also James read that bit by Tulku Urgen. I just wanted to discuss and talk about and together contemplate and think about this, what we're doing with our practice. You know, the main thing in Mahayana and especially Vajrayana, because Vajrayana is a tantric interpretation of Mahayana. It's a misunderstanding that if we think of Hinayana, the Theravada teachings, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, it's not like this. It's like a Hinayana and then Mahayana, and Vajrayana tantric vehicle is together with Mahayana. It's just tantric version sutra-based, text-based Mahayana. But the tantric method makes it much more effective in my experience, just a lot more effective. And that's why I think that the whole idea of attaining Buddhahood in this life can be taken seriously, can be considered seriously in the case of Vajrayana practice, and it's a real possibility for Vajrayana practitioners. And that's why I wanted to have that bit by Tulku Urgen read aloud, because he's somebody who knows that scene. Being such a renowned master who did a lot of retreat and had great teachers himself, and as you heard, he said that he has known many men and women who have attained this enlightenment, this Buddhahood. And that it's not, he also said that it's not an ancient fable, it's not a fairy tale. And that is something that to me personally, and I'm sure to many of us, hopefully all of us, the reason why I'm talking about this is to bring it closer to us and really, help us understand that it's a real thing, that it is possible to attain, if I could say in Western secular terms, like perfect clarity, perfect awareness, perfect self-knowledge, mind state without any negative activity, mind state without any impulsive activity, that it is possible. And that is, of course, what we are, in our Pemako practice, we have Guru Yoga, Tantric Guru Yoga. We have Rainbow Body Yoga, which is like a densely packed, really densely packed tantric practice or sequence of different techniques. We have many other practices, these are the main ones: Tantric Guru Yoga, Rainbow Body Yoga. Then we have, how do you say, like a supportive or auxiliary. Do you use that word, auxiliary? Like auxiliary extra practices, a lot of them, like I have listed in the preliminary practices booklet that you can find from the website. And of course, us being tantrics, Vajrayanis, it's all based on empowerment. And empowerment refers to tantric lineage, which is really, really important, because if Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal weren't there, if they hadn't passed the teachings to myself, the empowerments to myself in the first place, there would be no benefit for you in what I have taught you, or the benefit would be very little. So it's because of Guru Rinpoche. I'm watching Guru Rinpoche's, I'll show it to you. His mask is there on the wall. Can you see it? There's his mask, and in the middle, and the wrathful paintings. But if it wasn't him and Yeshema, we would not be getting the benefit we are from all the Pemako teachings. And you know, Pemako Buddhist method is very different. It's essentially different, and because of that, unique when compared to termas, Dharma treasures revealed by previous tertons. It's quite different. You know, we have a dynamic concentration combined with tantric practice, and I was also reading that bit by David Chapman earlier today, and my comment to Chapman's tweet, and you know, the way how I teach and the way how our Sangha members therefore practice, it's very different compared to Tibetan Vajrayana. It's very different. I think that David Chapman, he mentioned in the short quote that, I'll have to check, there's a powerful tendency both in Tibetan tradition and in modernity to concretize Chalung into fixed techniques, to concretize tantric practice into fixed techniques, which misses the point, in my opinion, he wrote. So for all of us not to miss the point is the reason why I teach like I teach. And maybe I read that bit by Tulgu Urgen 1.5 years ago on a summer retreat in Wales, and I made a honest and direct question. I asked the Sangha present there that, do you think, yes or no, thumbs up or down, if you will attain Buddhahood in this life or not? What is your answer? Thumbs up or down? What do you think? In the light of your experience, in the light what you have already experienced, how your mind has changed through your practice so far, think about it a little bit farther ahead. Do you think it's there somewhere in near or farther future? Or do you think it's not there? What do you think? Keep it up, keep it showing so that I can see.
I think it's possible, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
It's the real surrender to it that, you know, it's the fear of it that makes me say maybe no, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or that it's not, you know, you know, it'll happen for all you people, but not for me, kind of. You know, I'll put myself outside it, like, you know.
Yeah. I saw a number of thumbs ups. I saw a couple of thumbs that were unsure. And then I saw a bunch of thumbs that were showing downwards. So for those who are not sure or who have thumbs down, here's my core instruction for you. Here's what you should practice. You should, assuming that you want, and that's a very, very important thing to say, assuming that you want to know yourself fully, you need to make bodhicitta your own. Without bodhicitta, there is no way of attaining Buddhahood. No way. If we, like I said this yesterday, that, you know, if we only practice for our own benefit, and there is no problem with that. You know, if we only want to establish peace and calm and clarity in our own body and and not care of others so much, that's not a problem. But that will not lead, that motivation will not lead to Buddhahood. It will not lead to full, perfect self-knowledge. That is simply the case. So bodhicitta, like we workshopped yesterday, it opens up our subtle body, the way how that smaller, lesser motivation doesn't do. And that is really important, because it's an interesting thing that our potential can only open up fully. It can tapped fully only through the care towards others, if we are doing it for the benefit of others. That's really interesting, and it tells something about how we are interconnected, how we are connected with everything, which is a different topic. But so what do I mean by making bodhicitta our own? Well, I mean that in Pemako Buddhism, like in all types of Buddhisms, there is something called taking refuge. David was just asking about me taking refuge. I haven't yet answered to you, but I will. But so there is something called taking refuge, which means that it typically means that we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And usually with that step, with that level of commitment, one takes vows, Bodhisattva vows, vows of a Bodhisattva, vows of somebody who, how should I say this, like who understands that in order to grow out from the small and tight cocoon of the self, we have to care for others. We cannot attain Buddhahood alone in a vacuum, that we are all the time in many, many ways connected with all life around us, physically and non-physically. So Bodhisattva vows that are also central teaching in Pemako Buddhism everyone needs to contemplate those. Anyone who, I'm not giving you an order, I'm saying that, if you want to take this seriously, if you want to attain that perfect self-knowledge, you really have to make Bodhisattva vows your own. You really have to become those vows, become the inner meaning of those vows. But also, if you do not feel like taking those vows, whether ceremonially in a refuge ceremony or by yourself, you don't have to. You can just keep it on the shelf, figuratively speaking, and perhaps take a look every now and then. So we don't have to become Buddhas or attain full self-knowledge if we don't have a need for that, or if we don't want that, or if it sounds somehow irrelevant or uninteresting for us. So we don't need to, we don't have to in that sense. But I'm just trying to say that it is possible, And if we want to, if we need to, then bodhicitta is the foundation. And like I said, becoming one, making those vows, becoming those vows is really important. And that's, in my experience, I took Bodhisattva vows in 2003. It's been a while. And for several months, when I was a Zen practitioner back then, several months when there was a reading of recitation of texts with that Sangha, I didn't read. I didn't chant aloud those vows because I understood that vow is something that is serious. It's like an oath, a vow. So before I had internalized it, had some kind of a meaning and understanding what it meant, I didn't want to take it. But then one day it clicked in my mind, oh, that's actually really awesome. I somehow intuited, understood that this is something really essential. And from that, I took Bodhisattva vows and Refuge ceremonially with a couple of Zen teachers, and my path took a turn there. It took my practice took a new gear, and that gear has been on up until today. And the interesting thing about Bodhisattva vows is that you can look at them from the developmental, from the practitioner point of view, but you can also look at them from expressing those vows, expressing that meaning as a pure, completely awakened, enlightened being. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. That's the rendition of the 4 Bodhisattva vows in Pemako. So, if you are not sure, practice bodhicitta. Make it your practice from day to night. And the simplest way of doing that is to, this is really the core point of bodhicitta. We suffer because we are so minäkeskeinen, self-concerned. It's all here. It's all about me, and everybody else, and the world is out there somewhere. If you meet, or if you have had depression or anxiety or panic attacks or something like conditions like that, you're trapped inside your own mind. You're literally trapped in there. And that's a samsaric state. But there are milder ones, Common people are also trapped to a large degree inside their minds. It's inside here. Just my things, my life, my sphere of things, and everything else is outside. My dog, my family, my relatives, my country, my language, my money, my house, my boat, my car, and so on. It's living inside a bubble. But the simplest way of practicing bodhicitta is to intuit beyond that sphere, beyond your own aura, outside of your aura, and voluntarily feel the suffering of all sentient beings. we have 7-8 billion people on this globe. We have animals, we have plant life, we have sentient life everywhere around us in this physical world, and also in subtle realms that we might be able to perceive and feel. So, and there's suffering and confusion everywhere. The name of the Bodhisattva of compassion is Avalokiteshvara, which literally means Lord who hears the cries from those below. Cries come from below to the ears of this compassionate Ishvara, Lord. And this is the simple practice that I'm suggesting for developing bodhicitta, that you voluntarily open yourself up, break that bubble, and feel the suffering of others. And simply from there, asking yourself, how does this make me feel? And it breaks your heart. And that's a good thing in terms of motivation. Because, you know, when we feel, when our heart breaks, when we feel that, you know, others also suffer, others also have pain, whoever they might be, you know, that touches our heart. And that's where the motivation for bodhicitta comes. So we start practicing, we start doing this whole thing for the sake of all sentient beings. Because really, we are interconnected. We are connected with each other. It hurts to see that others suffer. Doesn't it? And we shouldn't be burdened by it. It's not like we cannot do practice for others on behalf of others. Like if I meet somebody on the street and I feel that, oh, that person has a heavy karma, that person has a heavy energy, I cannot start practicing for that person, making his or her mind clear. I cannot do that. So it's so we shouldn't be burdened, or shouldn't we shouldn't take the suffering of others in a way that makes us heavy. Do you follow me? So we simply acknowledge that all sentient beings in samsara, they suffer. We feel that in our heart, and our response to that situation, our reaction, our conscious action to this situation is that, okay, I have to, you know, reach perfect self-knowledge. I have to tap that Buddha nature within me in full to become an embodiment of this knowledge. I have to jump out of samsara entirely. I have to blow out all my karmas and habits and tendencies so that I can actually become a support for everybody I meet, physically or non-physically. And that, you know, that is really something. To meet a Mahasiddha is really something. And I know this. And I know this from first-hand experience, because I've met Amma, the hugging saint, so many times. It is something else. You know, meeting a Mahasiddha, Just like you have met Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal hundreds of times, if not thousands, it changes things. It puts things into perspective. It has the power to make delusions disappear. And that is the whole point of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is both like a practice that takes us from the samsaric condition to the enlightened condition, but then in the enlightened condition, bodhicitta becomes complete. So you don't have to generate it anymore. You literally become the meaning of those vows. You become, I vow to liberate all sentient beings. You don't have to generate that vow anymore. You become just like Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal. You know, they are sort of like gateways to freedom. And we also, every one of us has that. We have Buddha nature, and it is possible, like Tulgurgen Rinpoche in that short quote was trying to, you know, he was trying to give us faith and confidence. And that's what I'm trying to say, of course, as well, that so bodhicitta, from morning to night, from night until morning, opening up to and feeling the suffering of all sentient beings. Bodhicitta, of course, can be, it can be cultivated through chanting of prayers, reading of texts. There are many texts about bodhicitta. If you feel attracted to study the text about bodhicitta, please do that. There are practices such as Tonglen that I teach. There is Chöd that I also teach. And I've given you can find from the YouTube channel, I've given teachings on bodhicitta before, and there's a whole series of bodhicitta teachings on Pemako YouTube channel, so you can check those. And then on top of that bodhicitta, tantric practice. Dynamic concentration and tantric practice together is an excellent formula, like we have seen. Excellent, really excellent formula. So I wish I could say that, oh yeah, I know 50 Mahasiddhas alive today. I wish I could say that. I wish I could say that, oh, there must be, there are so many of them. There must be 1,000 Mahasiddhas alive today. I wish I could say that. There must be, oh man, there's so many of them. I've met so many throughout the years. There must be 4,000 or 5,000 of them. But that simply isn't the case, unfortunately. There are Mahasiddhas in non-physical form. There are, if you tune into the field of Mahasiddhas, there you can find, it's like a stadium full of Mahasiddhas. But in physical world, unfortunately, not that many. And the reason for that is I've discussed these basic problems in Buddhist teaching and Vajrayana teaching for many years, and I don't need to, go into that rant again, but I'll just say that what we have in Pemako Sangha, that our practitioners have the know-how to open the first bhumi and then have tantric empowerment and have dynamic concentration combined with tantric empowerment and tantric deities, mantra practice. That is really something unique. it simply doesn't exist in any other tradition. That is a simple fact. It doesn't exist. And like I was saying yesterday, years ago when I asked Babaji, what is the purpose of my teaching all this stuff? Because I have learned a lot of things up until that point already. And I've learned many things since. And he said that, like I told you, that he said that, well, your job is to collect the bits and pieces of the wisdom traditions, put it together with my own termas, and present that to everybody who's interested. And, that's what I've done. And looking at the method we have now, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm very happy with it, actually. It has taken a long time for me to study our method and develop it little by little. And, those of my students who have been around for long, I have a couple of students who have been, Ville has been coming to my teaching since 2005, I think. Yeah, that was even before when I became a full-time teacher. Then there's Tia and a couple of others who've been around for something like 7-8 years. So, and even if you have been around just a few years, you know that I've done some tweaks, some adjustments in our techniques and in our method to do what I was told to do by Babaji. To put it together in a way that it is suitable for Western people and for people of our time. That's the whole point, that my terma is not like Tibetan terma. Tibetan termas are often like texts, and how they are practiced is that you might have 10 pages of text or prayer that has the bodhicitta part, the description of motivation, and then you read through, in Tibetan language usually, you read through a visualization practice where you simultaneously read the long text and you're supposed to visualize, something like what is depicted in Tankas, similar view. You're supposed to visualize it, and these texts can be 5 pages, 10 pages, 20 pages. So that's like the Tibetan style of terma, and there is absolutely no problem. I don't see any problem in Tibetan termas except that they are Tibetan. And we are not Tibetans. We are Westerners, grown up in Western culture, and I personally never had interest in even learning the Tibetan language or Japanese language for that matter, or Chinese or anything. It's kind of ironic that I'm sitting here in this Mongolian shirt because I've worn Asian clothes all my life, literally since I was 6 years old, because I don't feel like wearing Western clothes, but nevertheless I don't feel like doing practice that has the expression of a culture that now feels foreign to me. So it has taken me quite a while to get to this point with Pemako Buddhist method, but I'm very satisfied with it. Our practitioners advance in an exceptionally quick pace, and I've said it publicly before, but I think that in a couple of years there will be a handful the first batch of Mahasiddhas in our Sangha. I'm absolutely confident that that will be the case. And again, it's not an ancient fable, it's not a story tale. There will be no one creating money out of thin air. There will be no one levitating on our retreats after a few years' time, but there will be people who radiate that purity, that perfect joyfulness and aliveness, and who are never distracted and who never have subconscious impulses. I have no doubt about that. Thank you for listening. Let's do some sitting and then have the basic prayers. Should we take a toilet break at this point? Yes, okay, let's take 5 minutes. So let's sit silently for about 20 minutes before basic prayers. We have done quite a bit of heavy tantric work. So just like a moment of recovery, sitting silently. Just relaxing, letting energies flow freely, unhindered.
feel the whole body. And just briefly reconnecting with that basic goodness of the body and mind. Also allowing it to soften belly, breath, chest, throat, vocal cords and the jaw, mouth, so that it can be expressed freely, this basic goodness in basic prayers. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in his pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. All beings are free. All beings are free. All beings are free. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. And palms.